I'm so awkward.
Sorry, let me redo this.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, my name is Lisa and I run a small business. If you are watching this video today, you'll know that I'm sharing something that is quite vulnerable to me, and it is my journey of how I quit my job 2 years ago and how I have started running my small business. So I'm going to tell you all about the story, all about my experience and how I felt, how I feel now, whether I regret that decision or whether I'm happy with where I am. So I'm going to share all about it today. And I guess if you are watching this video also, maybe you're curious about my journey, or maybe you yourself have a desire to run your own business, to be your own boss. Maybe you have a small business that you're running on the side and you're considering
Quitting a full-time job.
to do what you love full-time. And I completely understand, I completely empathize, because that's how I felt 2 years ago. And I hope that by sharing what I want to share today, it will help you to also have a clearer picture of what your life would look like 2 years from now if you do decide to quit your job today. I mean, not everyone's story is the same and not everyone's journey is the same. Mine is probably gonna be really different from yours, but there could be some similarities and there could be some struggles that you could relate to, and I just hope that by sharing my experience and my story, it can help you make a decision for yourself as well. I hope it inspires you, or if not, it just brings you comfort. So with that said, let's get into it. The context. So here is my story. I made this decision to step off my corporate job after I was working about 3 years into my first full-time job, and I worked as an environmental consultant, and that's because I studied earth sciences when I was in university. So I guess the whole reason why I even stepped into this path of like studying environmental sciences and all that was because I felt like geography and earth sciences was like a good in-between of both math and science and also the arts and humanities. Like growing up, I think there was a lot of emphasis, at least in the Singapore education system, on math and sciences. Everyone always says like, oh, if you want to have a future, if you want to you be able to get a job that can earn money, then you need to do something related to the math and science. So when I was in secondary school, when I was in junior college, like I just made sure I took math and sciences as my like major subjects. And when I had to choose a degree to study in university, it just made sense to choose something related, even though I think I was not really interested in any of those jobs. Like I can't imagine being an engineer, I can't imagine being some coder.
I absolutely could not do accounts.
Or not business, but more of like the money side of things, or like calculating math, economics and all this. Like I can't. Everyone around me at the time always says like, oh, it's not practical to study arts. So I ended up not taking any art courses. I think if I had a choice and if I was purely going by my interest and my passion, I probably would have ended up in some kind of art school. But because I was trying to study what everyone said was going to make money, what everyone said was going to be a stable job, I ended up doing something related to the sciences. And don't get me wrong, like I loved geography and I loved the earth sciences. I loved studying about the environment, the planet, the weather. And my course in university was the dream because we got to go on so many field trips to like the US, to Taiwan, to Malaysia, to all kinds of like the weirdest places that people don't go on for holidays, because we're going to like look at landscapes, look at mountains, we're camping, we're doing like field work, and I would not trade that experience for anything. I loved it. Well, I was able to do well in my course still, decently, such that I had a good enough GPA to get a good job. But I think after working 3 years in the environmental consultancy, I liked the work there and it was interesting, but I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. I would look at my managers, my team leads, like people who are above me, and probably where I need to aim towards, if I were to stay in that industry. And I couldn't see myself doing what they were doing. I couldn't see myself managing projects and clients and doing the timesheets. After a while, I just started questioning myself if I was even doing much, if I was making any impact, if I was even fulfilling any purpose by staying there. Well, that led to me asking myself what I wanted to do. And at that point, I did look at other jobs in the industry, and I still could not bring myself to apply to any of them. Oh, I missed out this point, but basically not even a year into the job, I think barely a year into the job, COVID hit. And that actually allowed me to have time to work on my small business. We were all forced to be at home during the circuit breakers and like isolated in our own houses. That was when I started to have more time to experiment and play around. Back then I was experimenting a lot with resin and flowers. I wanted to be able to preserve flowers and turn them into wearable art and jewelry that I can sell, which is still one of my offerings in my business today. In the July of 2020, July of 2020, that was when I started my business on the side. So I kept my full-time job while having my small business on the side for about 2 years before I quit and started to try running it full-time. That 2 years of running it on the side was really good actually, because partially that was when the hype for small businesses came about. It was where the hype for handmade stuff was like all the rage. That was when the business did really well. Like every collection that I launched, I would see a full sellout, and there would be people that would come to me to say like, no, like I wanted to buy it, but when I was trying to cut out, like someone cutted it out and I couldn't buy it, and the demand was so good. Back then, like I was, I think, able to generate considerable amount of income from that side business to help with the pay cuts and everything. Because of that, I had a lot of hopes and dreams. When I was like working from home, sitting at my laptop, doing work for the consultancy, writing reports, I would just be like daydreaming about having my own studio one day, being able to craft and sell my craft for a living, and being able to connect with people, being able to connect with customers, being able to do art that could make someone's day. That was my dream. I mean, I started working in my first full-time job when I was 23, fresh out of university, and by that time I was 26, and I was thinking to myself, wait, did 3 years just like fly by like that? And I was thinking, wow, if I don't do anything about it now, it's gonna be another 3 years before I know it, and I'm gonna be 29. I didn't feel like there was a challenge. I didn't feel like there was gonna be growth. And I just feel like I had to do something about it. Either I had to change a job or I had to just try doing what I've been wanting to do. One of the push factors as well for me to make that decision was because COVID was starting to become a lot more manageable and everything was opening up. We started to have to return to office. For my company back then, I think we had to go back 4 times a week. We only had 1 day a week to work from home. That was not nearly enough to work on my small business. And also because social obligations were returning, I had to meet friends. It was just not possible to, I mean, it was possible at my mental health and at the expense of my health if I wanted to continue running the business on the side. That was when I decided that I was really gonna burn out soon if I didn't do something about it. So let's talk about the arrangement that I had, the plan that I had when I decided to submit my resignation letter. I couldn't go without a plan, right? Thankfully, I was fortunate enough to come from a family where my parents own their business as well. So they actually run a hardware business selling furniture parts and hardware to carpenters who are doing renovation projects. And my mom was saying that, I should try to come over to help them to digitize their business, to sell online. Times are changing and there are carpenters who rather like just order supplies online. And I was thinking it's a win-win, right? Like I could go over to help them part-time and I can get a stable part-time salary from that, and then I can supplement it with my own business that I run with the rest of my time. I mean, part of the reason why also it was easier to make the decision to quit my full-time job is that I guess coming from an environmental sector, I don't think the pay is really high. So I was earning about 3k a month full-time back then. And because of COVID and everything, even after 3 years, I was still only earning about 3k plus. Yeah, so the pay raise was not nearly enough to be able to hold me down, I guess. I could see that if I worked harder on my part-time, I could actually make the same amount that I'm making in my full-time job. And that was enough of a motivator to quit. Okay, coming back to my new arrangement. So my plan was that on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, I would go in to help my family business, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would set that aside for my own side business. Turns out, as you can probably tell, 2 days a week is basically the same amount of time that I was spending on my business anyway, like before I quit my job. And I guess because of that, the growth for the business was pretty much the same, stagnant maybe, and the amount that I was earning was about the same or sometimes actually lower. Just being real that not everyone who quits their job is going to have that like overnight success, blow up story, like get viral and get success. So the main difference, I guess, for me is that I was able to have flexibility to go for more booths, like especially booths that are on weekdays. I don't have to like worry about trying to take a leave. The other big difference actually was that I was a lot more well rested. Before that, I was really on the brink of burnout. Now I have more balance. I had time to hang out with friends, I had time to spend time with God, to read, to date, because that was also the period of time that I met my now boyfriend, and I'm really thankful for that balance in my life now that I didn't really have before. Coming to my honest emotions and feelings. To be honest, for the first few months, I was actually quite motivated to try to prove myself, to prove that I can do this full time. I guess I couldn't fail. Like I made such a risky decision and I felt like I couldn't fail. So I was working so hard to craft, to churn out pieces to sell. After a while, I felt like even if I was able to churn out enough pieces to make up for what I used to earn, it wasn't nearly like I could, but it was gonna take a toll on my health just because I needed to spend so much time crafting and there was only so much I can sell it for, otherwise people might find it too expensive to buy. Didn't change anything. I continued to craft and to work and to sell and to launch collections, but it was quite demoralizing because I did see like a fall in sales. Previously people would buy everything for my collection, but now, you know, whenever I launch something, maybe only like 20 to 30% of them get sold during the launch day, and then maybe over the next few weeks or even months, then people will buy some pieces here and there. I could see that my stocks were a lot slower moving than before. That made me also consider pivoting, in the sense that I could not only rely on selling purely handcrafted resin pieces anymore. I had to also look at hand assembled pieces that I knew were of good quality that I could sell, so that I could also supplement some of my income with things that are not directly linked to the time that I spend on it. By the 6-month point, I think I was constantly questioning myself if I made the right decision. The 1-year point was when I decided to pivot my business to try to rebrand and to sell more than just handcrafted items. The new brand has been launched for about 6 months or half a year. Now I want to talk about my 2-year update. So these are my very raw reflections on what I have gathered at this point in time in my 2-year mark of being self-employed. I know everyone wants to know the answer to the question, do I regret what I did? Do I regret making that decision 2 years ago? And just to answer this question first, the answer is no, I don't regret it. I don't regret it, and here is why. I do still have self-doubt, and I still struggle with so much anxiety about making sales and trying to survive and how to make my business sustainable every single day, even now, like 2 years later. It doesn't help that I guess my business didn't really grow in the way that I expected it to grow when I quit my job 2 years ago. But do I regret it? I don't. Partially because I feel like I did grow a lot, even in the 2 years. Like, it wasn't 2 years of doing nothing. It was 2 years of learning about product photography, sourcing, manufacturing, social media marketing, branding, and content creation. Yeah, so I don't regret any of it, and I do think that my skills are transferable if I ever do need to find a full-time job. So it's not wasted time, so I don't feel like I wasted my time. I don't regret it in that sense. I also don't regret it because I feel like this is where I need to be in this season of my life. I didn't make the decision on my own. Back then, 2 years ago, when I prayed over this decision, I felt a lot of peace in my heart to do it. This was where I was happy. This was where I was meeting more people, making more friends, and making more impact in other people's lives. And that was what really mattered to me. This proved to be where I needed to be. Because there was also a lot of things that happened in my family in these past 2 years. I will not go into details, but I felt like I served my purpose in being in my family business, being at home more, and also working on my own business. So I don't regret it a single bit. Did my finances take a hit? Probably. But thankfully, because of my part-time job that I still do in my family business, it helped to at least stabilize my savings to some extent. I'm not just like on a decline. Now for the next part, which is what now? After 2 years of trying, a lot of people would say that there is enough time to have given something a try and maybe it's time to move on and try something else or try going back to full-time. What are my plans for the future? Again, I prayed about it because I was at such a loss. Honestly, this morning when I woke up at 6 a.m, I was really questioning myself on, is this the right thing for me? Am I doing what I should be doing? And I prayed about it. Okay, so I mean, don't mean to be
Pushy on religion or anything, but this is just something that
really spoke to me, and I felt like God was really speaking to me while I was reflecting on this. I still felt the peace from God when I prayed about this decision on, God, is this really what I should be doing with my life? Is this where you want me to be? How do I know that I will be able to sustain myself? So when I prayed about it, I was actually reading 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 1. So I went to Google, I wanted to Google on a Bible commentary on this verse, but I ended up having a typo. I don't know why I thought I was reading 2 Corinthians instead of 1 Corinthians. So I ended up searching 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 1, and it said, therefore, having this ministry by the mercy of God, we do not lose heart. Yeah, and I went to Google, what does this mean? What does this verse mean? I don't want to take it off context or anything, I mean, I always felt like my ministry was in my business and in being able to touch lives with the artwork that I do and the business that I do. So I searched what's the meaning of 2 Corinthians 4 verse 1, and then they said God has given Paul this job out of his great mercy. That's why Paul says that he and his friends do not lose heart. In this context, this means they refuse to quit. They may become tired in what they do, but not tired of it. I mean, I just searched 2 Corinthians 4 verse 1. They bolded, they refuse to quit. And I was just so touched in that moment because I really felt like God was trying to encourage me. Okay, but that's not it. Okay, so I continued reading the rest of this passage because I wanted to, make sure I take everything in context.
and I'm gonna cry.
Verse 16 says, so we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. And I do not wish to take this out of context. I do know that in its context, it means we don't focus just on the worldly things and we focus on the spiritual things. But at the same time, I feel like in context of my personal life and how God is speaking to me as well, it really felt like God was trying to tell me don't lose heart, don't quit, don't give up. Eventually, it's gonna pay off, and it may not necessarily be in terms of money, but I think in terms of purpose, in terms of how I impact others with my life and my job and my time, I think it's gonna be worth it. And I do feel a lot more fulfilled now than I was 2 years ago. I think that's all that I want to share for this video. It's getting a little bit long, but I hope that with my sharing and my journey that it could inspire you somehow. If there are any questions that you may have, please feel free to leave it in the comments and I will try my best to answer all of them. If you stayed till this part of the video, thank you so much for watching this video and for listening to my story. And I hope that it gives you some clarity as you reflect on your own decision on whether you want to pursue your passion full-time or on the side. Whatever it is, I just wish you all the best for your journey, and thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.